There are many options in regards to cases for the MiSTer FPGA. While you can get by with a DE10 Nano and a stick of RAM, to get access to some of the more advanced features, such as using original controllers, light guns, and simultaneous digital and analog output, a full setup will be best. You can purchase additional boards to expand your MiSTer setup with those options, and also add a case to cover it up. However, there are some engineers out there who have taken the designs of the expansion boards and developed their own all-in-one solutions and cases to provide a more sleek console-like look. One such board is the MiSTer Plus by Antonio Villena. In this video, I'm going to go over its features and also show you how to assemble the kit. So let's get to it. Before I continue, I would first like to thank Antonio Villena for sending me a pre-release version of the MiSTer Plus kit to show to you. He provides many of the options you need to add to your MiSTer setup. Check out his site at antoniovillena.es if the MiSTer Plus interests you or you need to find something else for your MiSTer FPGA needs. The kit I have here is expected to cost about 190 euros or $218 US without the DE10 Nano, but you will have some options to customize the kit. It's a pretty compact design, but still gives you all the features you need for a full MiSTer setup. I really like the see-through acrylic and the way the LED lights can be seen through it. When it's assembled, it's very sturdy and doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. To give you an idea of the size, here it is alongside a standard DVD case and some old school cartridges. I'll first go over a general overview of the board and its features, and at the end of the video, there will be full instructions on assembling it. At the top, you have a cool OLED screen that shows you some infographics, like the current core running. A neat little detail with it is a tape loading animation when you load a new core. You do need to do some configuration to get it to work, and I will show you how to do this during the assembly instructions portion of this video. There is also a built-in fan. It's very silent and not noticeable when playing games. You have the reset, user, and menu buttons. You also get an internal USB port. I'm currently using it for a Bluetooth adapter, but it would be nice to use it for a combo Wi-Fi and Bluetooth adapter. Do any of you know of any compatible combo adapters? Please let me know in the comments. When the board is assembled with the case, this is how the top looks like. At the bottom of the case, there's nothing, but underneath the board is the battery for the real-time clock. One side of the board has 5 USB ports, so no need for a USB hub. The other side of the board has the main SD card slot, the SOG or Sync on Green toggle, which is a pressable button. To disable Sync on Green, just leave the button pressed down. And there's also an extra SD card slot for cores that support it. In the front of the board, there's an extra USB port. This is not a serial USB port. To replace the serial port of the standard I/O board, there is a DB9 port that offers SNAC and MT-32 Pi connectivity. More on this port later. We have Ethernet, the DE10 Nano's console port, and the DE10 Nano's USB on-the-go port is now used up with a USB bridge for the built-in USB hub. And on the back, you have the DE10 Nano's developer port, HDMI, the power connector, the VGA port for analog video output like SCART, component, and VGA, analog audio output, and an ADC port for tape input. Some old computers use audio on cassette tapes to store data. If you have an original tape and play it back through this port, you can load up software through it. I do plan on making a video regarding this port. So you can see you have all the features of a standard MiSTer setup, but there's something unique about this DB9 port that replaces the standard I/O board's USB serial port. So yes, you can use this DB9 connector for peripherals such as SNAC and the MT-32 Pi hat. SNAC allows you to use original console controllers in a core with no added lag, so you get a more authentic experience. However, this DB9 port is not a standard SNAC port. It uses an extended version of SNAC called Extended Native Controller Compatibility, or ENCC for short. ENCC gives you the capability of using 2 original controllers on a core for 2-player gaming. And you also get the ability to use original Genesis or Neo Geo controllers with other cores. This extended functionality does need to be added to a core, but there are over 100 cores supporting it. For cores not supporting ENCC, you will need to obtain some forked cores. These forked cores get synced with the official ones shortly after an update occurs, so you don't have to worry about using outdated cores. You can plug in a Genesis or Mega Drive controller directly to the port, or you can get 2-player adapters for it and other systems. I opted to purchase a Decapod from Antonio Villena, which comes with 2-player ports for all the major 8 and 16-bit consoles. I'll have a separate video on this device as soon as I can get a full suite of controllers to test. You cannot add this DB9 feature to standard I/O boards. Antonio Villena's boards use an extra line from the DE10 Nano, which allows for these extra features. But for standard analog I/O users, he is going to provide a 2-player splitter for Neo Geo or arcade controllers. This port also lets you use an MT-32 Pi hat. But if you have one that connects over the serial USB port of the I/O board like I do, then you will need an adapter to connect it. If you don't already own an MT-32 Pi hat, then you can buy a DB9 version directly from Antonio. Using the case works just the same as any other MiSTer setup. Connect it to a display over HDMI or analog, plug in any input devices or peripherals to the USB ports, and power it on. I still haven't decided if I want to do the mod to make this sync on green button work as a power button. It requires permanently modding the power connector on the DE10 Nano, and I'm not sure I want to do that. The only other things that would need extra setup would be configuring the OLED screen, and if you plan on using original console controllers, you'll need to download the extra DB9 cores. Otherwise, everything works the same as a standard MiSTer setup. Here's the setup on a CRT connected to a composite adapter. Check out my video regarding this adapter. I'll provide a link to it in the description. So overall, I feel this is a really cool case to use for your DE10 Nano, especially if you're looking for something that looks different than the standard MiSTer setup and is compact. I used to use the Super NES replica case with a Raspberry Pi as my travel retro gaming setup. I always had a naked MiSTer setup, but now with this case, I think I'm going to replace the Raspberry Pi for traveling. I will need to first find a compact carrying case to put it in. What do you think about this case? Please let me know in the comments. Okay, so that was an overview of the MiSTer Plus kit. Let me show you how to assemble it now. First, let's see what's included in the MiSTer Plus kit. We have the I/O USB Plus board that attaches to the DE10 Nano. We have this bag that has the heatsink, screws, some connector, and the optional RAM. And finally, here's the acrylic casing in 6 different pieces. As far as tools are concerned, you'll need either a hex 2mm or Torx TA screwdriver. Let's start assembling by setting up the bottom. Take the 4 longer screws and nuts and screw them to the bottom part of the acrylic case. The bottom case is the one without the air vents for the fan. After you're done with the screws, stick these bumpers to each corner on the side that has the screw heads. Now take your DE10 Nano and remove all the pillars from it. We are going to use the ones provided with the MiSTer Plus kit. Do not mix these pillars with the ones provided with the kit. They are different sizes and you might have a difficult time figuring out which is which if you mix them together. Now, orient the case with the side that has the screws closer to the edge to face you. You see this side that has screws farther from the edge? And this side has screws closer to the edge. Have this side facing you. Then take the DE10 Nano and put it above the screws. Make sure the DE10 Nano's HDMI port is facing left and the Ethernet port is facing right. Oh, and make sure your SD card is removed. The kit comes with a heatsink, but I already had a heatsink installed on my DE10 Nano. But I do have a second DE10 Nano coming in, so I'll use it on that one. I also removed the pillars from the I/O USB Plus board, except the ones that are between the black analog tape input and the green analog audio output. These pillars are different sizes than the others, and they need to be in this corner. If you mix them with the others and use them on the wrong corner, you can end up bending the board. So now I'll take the bottom 3 pillars I removed off the I/O USB Plus board and screw them to the respective corners of the DE10 Nano. Remember, do not remove the pillars next to the black analog tape input port. This is the corner that, for now, will be left without a pillar on the DE10 Nano. If you plan on using analog audio output through the green 3.5mm jack, then you'll have to flip a switch on the DE10 Nano. You see this switch here? It's the one that's on the side where the Ethernet port is. Flip it to the position that's toward the FPGA chip, which is called the I2S position. If this is not done, then you will not get analog audio, but audio through HDMI will still work. Now let's take this little adapter and plug in its micro USB end to the micro USB port of the DE10 Nano. This adapter is the USB bridge to the USB hub. Next, take this provided jumper and put it on this port here. You put it on the top 2nd and 3rd pin. Here's a closer look at the port. Now let's insert the RAM module. If you had a previous MiSTer setup, then you already know how to do this. But if you also purchase the RAM module along with the case, here's what you need to do. Take the RAM chip and look for the text on it saying side facing outward. Then we are going to insert the chip on the top pins here, with the side with the text facing away from the DE10 Nano. All the DE10 Nano pins must be covered. Okay, so let's now attach the I/O USB Plus board to the DE10 Nano. The side with the VGA and analog audio ports should be on the same side as the DE10 Nano's HDMI port. Let me show you which pins and ports need to be aligned. These pins on the I/O USB Plus board need to be aligned with this port on the DE10 Nano. And this port on the I/O USB Plus board needs to align with these pins on the DE10 Nano. You also need to make sure the USB bridge needs to attach to this pin above it on the I/O USB board, and the I2S jumper needs to attach to these 2 pins above it. Like the pins below it, they should attach to the 2nd and 3rd pins. Everything should align just fine, but you still want to be careful and not rush attaching the 2 boards. When the boards are attached, tighten any screws at the bottom that need it. Then finish screwing in the top pillars on the I/O USB Plus board. When that's done, I'll pull off this protected film from the OLED screen. And also place the provided button caps for the user, reset, and menu buttons. Now it's time to put the sides of the case. This one goes to the side with the USB ports. The bottom of the case has holes where you need to insert the side to. This one goes to the side where the Sync on Green button and micro SD card slots are located. This one goes to the side with the VGA and HDMI port. This final side is a little bit tricky to put in. All the other sides I inserted at an angle. This side, however, needs to be inserted flat first, then raised once the USB bridge can pass through its hole. To put on the top, align these 3 button holes with the reset, menu, and user buttons on the board. You may notice that the buttons are underneath the case. I was sent a pre-release setup that didn't have the final buttons. The final case will come with full-size buttons that will be easily pressable over the case. Now just seal the case by using the final screws on the top screw holes. And to top everything all off, use the included MiSTer sticker. Don't rush to put it on. Make sure the sticker does not cover the OLED screen. I made that mistake, so don't do what I did. Let it apply for a while. I left it on overnight just to be sure. Now the system looks complete. Connect the setup as you normally would. Insert your memory card. Make sure it's facing down. Plug into your television display over HDMI. Connect some controllers to the USB ports. I'm using the replica Super NES USB controller from RetroFlag. And connect the power supply and you're set. If this is your first MiSTer setup ever, check out the MiSTer GitHub to show you how to install the OS. It has very easy to follow instructions, especially the Fusion instructions. I'll provide a link in the description. Okay, so you have your MiSTer Plus all set up, but what if you have some original controllers you want to use? If you have an original controller that uses a DB9 plug, like the Genesis controller, you can plug it directly into the DB9 port. For other controllers, you're going to need an appropriate adapter. Also, if you want to use 2 DB9 controllers, you will also need an adapter. If you want all the adapters, consider getting Antonio's DecaPad, which has ports for all the major 8 and 16-bit consoles. After that, it's just a matter of plugging in the controllers and turning on the snack options. As soon as I get a full suite of controllers to test, I'll do a full video on the DecaPad. But in the meantime, some controllers do need some forked cores to get them to work, so let me show you the process of getting these cores. Download the Update All script from GitHub, check the description for the link, copy it to your scripts directory on the MiSTer's SD card, then get on the MiSTer OS, go to Scripts, scroll down until you find Update All and run it. When the script starts running, it will give you some time to go to the settings before it executes the updates. Press up on the controller or keyboard to go to the settings. You get a new menu. Go into Main Updater, then move down to Core Versions, and change it to DB9/SNAC8 forks with ENCC. Go back to the Main Update All settings, move down to Save to store the change, then select Exit and run Update All. The script will now run and any cores with DB9 forks will be downloaded instead of their official ones. Again, don't worry about them being outdated. Whenever there's an official update, the forks get synced with the official ones soon after. Once the Update All script is done, it might ask you to reboot. Do so if it does. If it doesn't, just continue on. The next step is to configure a core to use the SNAC port. Here is the Genesis core. To configure SNAC, bring up its menu. Then scroll down to User I/O joystick and change it to DB9 MD for an original Genesis or Mega Drive controller. Now, I'll just plug in my Genesis controller to the DB9 port and I will be able to use it. And it works. I'm able to control the menu, so I'll load up a game. Street Fighter 2 is always my test case for a controller. If I can pull out dragon punches easily, then I'm good. So it works great. I'll test out other console controllers and 2-player functionality on my video dedicated to the DecaPad. Let's now set up the OLED screen. When it's set up, it shows an image of what current core is running. There is a warning on the OLED screen GitHub about making sure you are using the correct I2C bus and the correct I2C display address. I'll show you how to determine if you are, but if you don't get the same results that I do, then you should refer to the GitHub for further help. So to determine if you are using the correct I2C bus and the correct I2C display address, you will need to get to your MiSTer's FPGA's terminal. You do that by either using SSH or when you turn on the DB9 Nano, hit the F9 key. The login will be root and the password will be 1. If you change this password, then use what you changed it to. Now let's make sure we are using the correct I2C bus. Type I2C detect space -L, that's a lowercase l. Look for the I2C_GPIO text. Make note of the bus number. Here I see I2C-2, so my bus number is 2. Then let's get the correct I2C address of the display. Type I2C detect space -Y and your bus number. Since my bus number is 2, for me I would type I2C detect -Y 2. If you see the 3C here, then you're good to go. Now we need to download the repository. I provided the link to the GitHub in the description. When you're there, click on the green code button, then click download zip. Extract the zip file to a folder on your computer. On the SD card for your MiSTer FPGA, create a folder called I2C2OLED in the media/fat directory. Make sure I2C2OLED is all lowercase. So the full directory structure of the folder should be media/fat/I2C2OLED. On the zip file I extracted, I'll copy these 3 scripts to the directory I created on the SD card. The file names are I2C2OLED.sh, I2C2OLED_slideshow.sh, S60 I2C-OLED. Then go into the pictures folder on the extracted zip file and copy the pics folder to the same folder we copied the scripts to on the MiSTer FPGA. Now we need to make sure the pics folder is all lowercase, so rename it with a lowercase p. This program won't let me rename to a lowercase p because it still thinks it's the same name, but if I name the folder to OIX and then rename it to PIX with a lowercase p, it works. The next step is to make the scripts executable. Log into the MiSTer's FPGA's terminal again. Username root, password is the number 1. Change to the I2C2OLED folder by typing this text. I'll list the contents of the folder by typing ls, and to make the scripts executable, type chmod +x and the name of each script. Finally, let's run the auto start script so it sets up your MiSTer to initialize the OLED screen every time you turn it on. Type the text you see on screen. And if you see a message saying adding I2C2OLED in it to user startup, then you're all set. The next time you boot up your MiSTer FPGA, the OLED screen will also come on. Finally, for the MiSTer Plus, if you want to use an MT-32 Pi hat, you will either need the DB9 MT-32 Pi hat sold by Antonio, or if you're like me and already have a non-DB9 MT-32 Pi hat, you can obtain an adapter that will let you plug it into the DB9 port like so. Then just configure a core compatible with the MT-32 Pi. I'll have a full video on setting up the MT-32 Pi out in the future. Well, I hope you found these instructions helpful and you are now enjoying your MiSTer Plus case. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and its bell icon so you can get notified of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.